I bought the Garmin LTE, and we're going to talk about whether or not it's right for you. So back in spring of this year, Garmin came out with this new little unit that can be added to any collar for the most part, and it's called the Garmin LTE. It's a cool little unit that is fairly compact, very light, and easy to put in a pack. So it really it replaces a lot of other pieces of equipment. And I have a quick little story that I'd like to share with you. I lost this thing off the back of my trailer after I was undoing all my gear. I put this on the back of my trailer, drove away, and on the highway it flew off the trailer. I didn't know about it. Got home, I was looking for it. I was trying to find this thing. I tore my truck apart, couldn't find it. Pulled up the Garmin app, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and I located it. It was 46.8 miles away from my house, and I couldn't believe it, but it knew right where it was at. It had 36% battery life left on it, and I was able to find it the next morning in the dark on my way hunting. So cool little story about that. It's neat. You could see that it went bump down the road. There's a bunch of scrapes and scars on it from surviving a flight off the back of my trailer. So I mean, they're pretty durable, so I give it a lot of credit for that. So aside from durability, this unit I've been using since probably a couple months ago. I bought it, and I've tried it in a bunch of different training scenarios and hunting scenarios. I have yet to truly test the limits of it with cell service, but it just basically has infinite amount of distance, whereas the VHF collars that require radio signal to keep in contact with the transmitter, they don't have as much range as this thing does. I'm pretty confident as long as I had cell service, and this could pick up cell service, I'm pretty confident that I could track it just about anywhere. That said, if you don't have strong cell service, this might not work in the middle of nowhere where there just won't be any service, but it works pretty doggone well around Michigan, which is where I do most of my work, and I've enjoyed it. The other thing is because it's so compact, one of the great things is you don't have that big whipping antenna that you have on the T20 and the TT25 tracking or training collars that come with the Garmin Alpha system. Pretty happy with that when you're just trying to train a dog or work a puppy. They don't have all that extra stuff sticking out. It's much more streamlined because it can be added to any collar. Now, I have found that when you add this to a collar, that you have to be mindful of the thickness, not the width of the band, but the actual thickness of the band. It's really hard to get through the little slots that are offered to you here, and it does have a nice toothy grip. Hopefully it can show. You can see the teeth that's in there, and that helps really grip the collar strap, and it doesn't move around much. It's easy to use if you just want a simple, straightforward tracking device. If you use a lot of the other GPS functions, it may not be as good. Or if you're using the inReach and communication stuff that's involved in the Garmin, this might not be as good. It's just a basic tracking collar or tracking unit. This LTE unit is really easy to set up. Once you download the app, it can be paired to your phone, and when you pair it to your phone, you gotta, of course I'm fumbling around here, trying to be smooth. So we're gonna go back. So on the phone, you'll see the little Garmin app right there. It's Garmin Alpha app. You tap that, opens up. It'll connect with your LTE, and then you will see your position and the position of the LTE. It's pretty easy to navigate through the menu system. You can turn the little lights on if you're working your dog at night or letting it run around in the yard. You can actually turn the lights on with your phone, so you can keep track of your dog visually in the dark. So there's there's a whole bunch of other cool little features that comes with it. I'm not going to bother with that right now. I'm going to focus mostly on the functionality as a hunting unit, but I can see some benefits for those who are just working their dog as a pet in a rural environment, out in the woods, or going for runs and walks and trying to keep track of your dog. Totally a functional unit for that as well. So it's a pretty versatile piece of equipment, and we're going to show you how I put it onto any. It could be added to any collar. I use a dog training collar, and it's really simple to add to this training unit. So I have the benefit of a beeper collar, a training collar, and now I add this GPS unit to it. I can make this into a tracking and training collar without having to buy a full unit with the Garmin 300 or 200 or 100 or any of those pieces of equipment along with the newer collars. It is just a straightforward entry into getting a piece of equipment that makes my system a little more versatile. So like I said, pretty simple, straightforward. You put the band, there we go. You put the band in, and you will want to make sure that when you pull this through, that you set your tracker to be. I like to give it a little room between the training function or the beeper, because it starts to, so it stays on top of the dog. So I've practiced it a couple times to kind of fit it for the individual dog roughly, so it stays on top and the beeper stays on the bottom. Don't try to put it through both buckles and then slide it. It won't go anywhere. It'll lock right in place. And then once you get it located on the band or the strap that you want, strap through the second buckle, cinch it in place, and man, that thing doesn't want to move at all. It is stuck on there. I just turned the thing on accidentally, so I'll show you that too. You just push and hold slightly. It's just a little longer. Push and hold, wait for it to beep. It turned green. You know it's starting to load up on your app. To turn it off, you just push until you see the red light, and then you let go and it turns off. Pretty easy unit to use. There's no magnets or anything like the Dogtra here requires a magnet to turn on and off, so you need the transmitter. This, you just need your phone, which you probably will take into the woods anyway in the case of emergencies, provided you have cell service. And it's a wonderful little gadget that can get you by without having to buy a $1,000 unit that includes the Garmin Alpha series transmitter and receivers. You're looking at like $800 for one of the handhelds, and then another couple $100, $300-400 for the collar. So for a total of roughly about $350, you can get the LTE, buy your subscription, because you do need a subscription for it, and download the app, and you're in business. You're working. Battery life on this, they say it's about 40 hours. I'm finding it varies quite a bit depending on probably depending on how much work it's trying to find a signal. I don't know. I would say it's close to that. If you have other Garmin pieces of equipment, it actually links up to the app, and you can see your Garmin LTE, you can see your T20 or your TT25 or your T15s, whatever other equipment that you have that is linked to tracking on a Garmin unit, it shows up on the app. And I do believe you can actually have this linked in a way that it shows up if you have a Garmin Alpha 200 or 300, it actually will show up on that receiver as well. So that's kind of a pretty versatile piece of equipment that it can cross-reference between all the pieces of toys that you can accumulate when you're working hunting dogs. Overall, I think that's a pretty good unit, but there are some things that I don't like about it. The fact that I have to buy a yearly subscription, that kind of annoys me, but I mean, for the purposes of what you're looking at, this actually, I could see where it really would benefit somebody who's looking to not put the big expense into a tracking system and just invest in something that can be added to their existing training collar. And this fits that bill very well. It has a slower update rate than if you're used to a tracking system for hunting dogs, especially pointing dogs, where you rely on a fast update rate. This takes anywhere from like 10 seconds, depending on your cell signal, I believe, and could take a few minutes. I have it set on the dynamic tracking, which seems to be the fastest, but you have different choices of tracking time frame where it updates the tracking information. Having just a little battery pack to charge it isn't bad to have on hand, so I have one. I have an extra little battery pack that I charge my collars as I go to keep them topped off, so when I get out, I never know where I might end up taking a direction change, and might be a bit before I get back to the truck. Another thing to note is that the cable that you charge this with is different than the other Garmin training and tracking collars. It's specific to this, that I can tell, is specific to this unit. So you don't want to lose that cable or buy an extra cable just in case. But overall, I think this is a pretty good unit. I've enjoyed using it. I hope that answers some questions for you and gives you some information on how to make a decision on whether or not this is right for you. So look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Good luck hunting.